Comic book villains have had a tendency to be lost under the makeup a bit. How did you avoid doing that with Oscar Isaac?
Well, it's a really good question, and it's something that was really important to me and Bryan. When we have an actor at the quality of Oscar Isaac, we wanted to make sure that the character was a real character and wasn't a cartoonish character. And that's a hard thing to do with Apocalypse because he is a larger-than-life character in the comics and in the cartoons.
Oscar and I had many discussions before filming all about the notions of religions and cults and gods and devils and just revelations. We looked at we would send each other music, songs that would inspire the character. So I think once he started that the makeup was not going to inhibit him. It wasn't comfortable at all. It was quite hot. He had a cooling unit when it really got really. Oh yeah, they had to walk around with a special thing that pumped cold water through his suit. But once the cameras were rolling, it was this character, seductive, believing that he's divine, even though he's not. One
of the things we said is, what is his emotional motivation? How do we make it relatable? How do we make it actually even almost rootable for an audience so that the audience is like, well, he has a point. And that's something that's always been true for Magneto. One of the things that's so great about Magneto is that you understand his motivation. You actually empathize with his motivation. So we wanted to find a way for the audience to feel like, well, this guy lived in a sort of more perfect time and was betrayed and wakes up in the horror show of the 1980s.
Apocalypse has left the world wide open, the X-Men universe wide open for a lot of things to happen. Do you know where it's going next?
One of the things that we do now, which is different than when I started 10 years ago on the X-Men movies, and I think it really is because of the influence of Marvel Studios, is there's a larger plan. And there's a larger plan not only for the X-Men movies, but how they potentially intersect with or at least inform movies like Deadpool and Gambit and New Mutants and even Fantastic Four. We have a pretty clear sense of where the next story would take us, and there are setups, like you mentioned, the Phoenix moment in Apocalypse. There are setups in Apocalypse that will hopefully pay off in future films.
Do you ever see yourself stepping away from the X-Men franchise?
I've stepped away before, so it's not an alien concept to me, and yet I don't think I'll ever let it go completely. So I try to stay involved either in a small way or sometimes a big way, like directing many of them.
Does Sony and Marvel's partnership with Spider-Man have any effect on the possibility of a team up with Marvel and Fox in the future?
I don't think so yet. But certainly, obviously, it worked, and there's a lot of goodwill certainly between me and Kevin. I think now actually between the studio and Marvel, there was a little bit of horse trading back and forth in the process of making Deadpool in a good way. So just as a fan of comics and a fan of comic book movies, I would love to see it, and like the idea that we could give them Wolverine and that I would get to write for, Iron Man would be a dream. But it's a very complicated legal thing that is so far above my pay grade. Who knows if it'll ever happen.